year. Excited to be here. Got done with our free agency meetings, draft meetings last week. We were able to get the scouts back for a weekend before we came down here and get this thing going again. And here we go, down here to figure out what the offseason is going to look like. It's our start. So let's go. It helps a lot. You know, we didn't have the guys in the interviews last year, you know, so having the position coach, defensive coordinator, head coach, you know, having those guys in the room is a big deal to, you know, just get the players going and, like, the football knowledge. But yeah, it helps a lot. You know, they were just implementing all their systems last year, so it's an opportunity for these guys to get down here and get rocking. Biggest gap? It's just both sides of the ball. You know, I was just talking to Dave about this. I feel bad for our fans because, you know, like not making the playoffs 2 years in a row, and you know, so we gotta get Lumen rocking again. You know, we gotta get speed on defense and be able to run the ball and get our identity. You know, so the new coaching staff now, the new offensive staff, is pretty cool. You know, like a proven system, and the teachers are really impressive.
What do you like about that?
I'm sorry?
I just was gonna say, what do you like about the new coaching staff? And kind of let those guys all kind of work together.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so when we got here in 2010, you know, Alex Gibbs was here for a minute with us, and I had a little bit of exposure in Green Bay to the wide zone stuff. But you know that Alex and Mike Shanahan, you know, those guys were obviously going to Super Bowls and stuff with it, right? So in Denver, and so like watching that over the years, that system, like again, proven system, and then you know Rick Dennison was there, and you know, so he's been involved with. So to have the number of people in that, like especially with our offensive line, so like John Benton, Rick Dennison, Klint's focus on running the football. Yeah, and Justin Outen, you know, played center and was a tight end run game guy for the Packers too. So, yeah, it's fun. It's good. It's a really cool group, and it's cool to kind of have things settled too, because last year, you know, through our offseason process, you know, we were late with our hire, and then Mike, you know, was hiring a staff and kind of getting people together like throughout the free agents or the draft meetings. So this year to have, you know, be able to keep, you know, talking the same language, having the position coaches come in and present to us now, you know, before we start each position, like, hey, you know, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. It's really helped. It's just, you know, like we're constantly talking about that holistic approach of, you know, acquisition, sports science, player development, you know, like just bringing that whole thing together. And obviously, you know, the coaching is the number one priority, you know, especially on that side of the ball, the way we finish the season. Yeah. I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. When the NFL world has given up on quarterbacks, I don't think are they giving up on quarterbacks? Oh. Yeah. The evaluation is just yeah, just the football knowledge, the confidence, the person spending time with, you know, our connections to other coaches around the National Football League, players that have played with the individual, coaches that have coached the player. It's hard, you know, without, you know, when NFL Europe was around, it was awesome. Those guys had an opportunity to go play in the spring, and so there was just better development at that time for more seasoned quarterbacks. We want them to be a smart, tough, physical, fast football team, and you know we want to be able to walk. We want to be able to get our home field advantage back, and win multiple championships for our fans.
You know, 7 or 8 years ago, it was a big deal when a college player opted out of a bowl game. Now that doesn't seem to be a big deal. But some are opting out of regular season games, whether it's health related or not. How do you evaluate a player that maybe decides to stop playing in the middle of November or even at halftime of a game in order to train?
They're all evaluated on an individual basis, so every circumstance is different. It depends on, you know, what's going on with the player at the school, where he is medically. But I don't. It's just part of the all part of the evaluation process. I mean, it's not good or bad. Yeah. Yeah. Good to see you, Lance. It means a lot, actually. You know, growing up in Green Bay, and that's why I have that affinity for like every day, like the fans. I always wanted to know that the guys over at the Packers facility were doing whatever they could to win football games, and it was such a big deal. I know how much it meant to me. So, and I know a lot of the people, you know, working for the Packers and how much time and energy they've put into this. So, I just think it's going to be awesome for the guys to be able to like. I just hope it's not snowing. Because remember the year we drafted Javon Walker, we got like there was like 3 feet of snow, and he had never even seen snow before. So some of these guys might be freaked out if there's a big snowstorm. But no, really excited for everybody at the Packers, and just it's gonna be a fun atmosphere. Competing in every aspect of building a football team, every day. You're talking about Pete, right? Yeah, and his ability to instill confidence in people is second to none, and the energy. I mean, it's going to be, it's a culture shift. I'm not exactly sure what it was, you know, what it was in the past, but I know what's coming in. From Pete, I mean, we don't have enough time for that, but but we did a lot of awesome stuff together, you know, and I think, you know, those 2 years starting out 7 and 9, you know, there's a lot of things we had to work through, and we overcame it. We sustained it. That's like his positive approach is amazing. I always tell people I think that his best coaching job was the year we lost the year after we lost the Super Bowl. I mean, he was unbelievable that year.
John, it was clear that you emphasize the running game with the hire offensive coaching staff, but just how high of a priority was that for you? And do you think the NFL is trending now back towards the running game being important for offense?
Yeah, it feels like it, right? But your ability to run the ball and condense the game and, you know, be able to stretch the field and throw the ball over the top, I don't think that's ever changed. You know, you do see just from a technique standpoint, you do see like the tackling not being great, you know, especially in college football, and you know, that's something that you want to be able to have that identity to play wherever you know, you're going to play in Detroit, you're going to play at home, you're going to play in Philly. We want to be able to run the ball wherever you are, you know, wherever you're going to play, and that having that physical run game just, you know, gets the defense rocking too. Sorry, it's hot here. Holy cow. Sheesh. Every year there's a constant evaluation of, okay, how do we acquire the player? You know, what all went into the decisions? So measuring it is like every year, like how do we change our process? Like have we emphasized enough in one area or another? You know, how have we managed our cap? That's usually a pretty big project after the draft, right? Where you're talking about, okay, you know, okay, we've spent more money on this side of the ball than this side of the ball. Because I mean, this is, you know, cash and cap. You got to rob from Peter to pay Paul. So you got to make those decisions, and then, okay, you know, how did we do it? Like, what was our process? What was the decision-making process? And we're constantly like adapting and trying to figure that out as we go. You know, it's not like there's just one way to do things. You have to be super pliable. Where things stand? I'm not sure. He's on our team. Yeah, yeah, he's a big, strong, fast, physical receiver. Yeah. Well, there's just a little bit more clarity there, right? Because you've seen the system. We saw it in you know, with the Vikings. We saw it in Denver, and then, you know, what they just went through in New Orleans. I mean, they started out really strong. They got real beat up, especially in the offensive line. But Klint did a great job. Like, and they were really. I mean, he's just got this really cool like calmness about him, and he's been around the league enough, especially with his father, to understand what the free agency process looks like, what the draft process looks like, uh, you know, team building, being pliable. He's been around it. So I would say the experience. Yeah. Last year was like everybody was just coming together. We're kind of like learning each other's names. Like, okay, what do you like? We go through. We went. There's a level of like like I said, speaking the same language. So we had signed some guys in free agency that, solid players, but weren't necessarily a good fit. So it's like, all right, we got to adjust on the fly. Like, let's not wait. Let's make decisions. And Mike's great that way. Mike's really, really, well, you guys know, you guys talk to him every day, but like really smart, clear communicator.
When you evaluate the players who played late in the college football season in the playoff, the last 2 rounds, it was later than ever before.
Yeah.
When they come here, maybe they haven't trained the way others have, or at times they suffer their wings. How do you evaluate them? Do you evaluate them differently, or you go more on the tape as opposed to less on stop?
No, again, you're evaluating everybody individually. So, how late have they played? What kind of injuries did they have? What do the analytics people think? What do our sports science people think? What are the coaches? How do the coaches value that? Value the player. What's the fit? So it doesn't necessarily. There's a. If you're talking about like height, weight, speed, is that kind of what you're getting at? Like, and how does that? Yeah, we're actually more interested in the person and the competitor, what kind of football player they are, more than like the GPS times or the height, weight, speed, what they're doing here. This is really, for us, yeah, we're evaluating these guys in the workout, but it's more about the football, like their tape. What does their tape tell us? And then getting to know the person a little bit more here. And then the biggest thing is the medical. Besides free agency and the draft, and. Yeah, well, we talk about compensating factors, right? So, what kind of compensating factors does the player have? Whether that's if you're talking about durability in general, that's how they take care of themselves, work ethic. What do the trainers at the school say? What do the strength conditioning guys say? How they evaluate the individual. So there always has to be some sort of, if you're undersized, like you have to figure things out. Like I had to figure out how to like pass block, right? I mean, I'm a little guy, right? What do I do? You could cut back then, so it's like, all right, like I'm gonna be cutting. I better be really good at that, otherwise I'm gonna get trucked, which I did a lot. You run over. Sorry. Not that that's affected me over the years at all, or stayed with me. Yeah. Yeah.
What about them stands out in their development and what Brian Hartline is doing at Columbus that kind of sets them apart from other guys? Because every year there's a first round pick.
Yeah, he's a great teacher. I mean, you talk about acquisition and development, right? I mean, they're getting the best receivers. I was just in Dallas a couple weeks ago, and his father came up to me. His son might go to Ohio State, and he was telling me about the recruiting process. And they're obviously very good evaluators, and then he's such a great teacher. Played the game, knows what it takes. There's a mentality approach that they have. They just have that receiver kind of swag about them, and it feels like they come into the league like ready to go.
Where does that show up? Like, where do you see them maybe be more ready to go?
All aspects, like their approach off the field, the study habits, how they take care of themselves, whether they're in the facility or away from the facility. The route running, precision, like being a precise route runner, working with the quarterbacks, having an understanding of feel for, how I run routes for this quarterback or that quarterback. It's a great question because they do seem like they're ahead of the game, and yeah, I would attribute that to Hartline for sure. He was a fun player too, like really good special teams player. So he had this like natural toughness about him, like really gritty, really good route runner himself, really good hands, worked his tail off. So. Well, there was a lot. I mean, he was extremely impressive in the interview, obviously. But then, speaking to everybody else, like that's interacted with him and worked with him over the years, all the background information was spot on. And then actually, he's like it's even more impressive. Like the more time you spend with him, and Yeah, so I would say just the teaching. There's a really cool clarity about his teaching, and I'm not sure what he would tell you, but he was coaching freshman high school when he was in college. He just has a really, really cool way about him in terms of being in front of the room.
John, in your experience, at what point in this process trade markets for the top of the draft start to solidify? Like, when can you take seriously offers that you're hearing from?
Great question. There's kind of a baseline that we start this week. We're meeting with, you know, every agency you can meet with, and then every team, and every kind of tries to get a little bit of little lay of the land. So it starts. I think a lot of that gets really, really serious about maybe 3 weeks out, 3 weeks out, because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, we got to make a decision here. Like let's roll. So. But up there, when we picked Spoon a couple years ago, it was like people were talking, but you don't necessarily know like what's real, what's not real. You know what I mean?
To be clear, when you say 3 weeks out, do you mean from now or from the draft?
Before the draft, sorry.
Some teams have said in the past that they will take mock drafts
Yeah.
analytics for.
Yeah.
Just for another kind of piece of it, is that something y'all kind of what
Yeah. Yeah, we have a guy, Patrick Ward, is an incredible guy, really talented. He works with Becca. Then they put together a really cool, they're constantly doing it. So it's everything. It's every mock draft you could think of. Shoot, now it's like what Vegas thinks. You know what I mean? Like anything you can put in a pile to evaluate, they're on it. Yeah.
So y'all kind of established or sort of confirmed the tiers that you guys kind of think were parts of the draft you're going to break?
Yes, to a certain extent, because it's constantly changing. Like I don't know how they do it, to be honest with you, but they're constantly one day a guy's a 5th round pick, next day he's a 3rd round pick. But it's just another tool for us to try to recognize how to navigate the draft on draft weekend, like how to maneuver. It's a good question. I'm not sure if it's like increased over the years. I mean, Brett Favre always wanted Randy Moss. Would talk to me. Like, are we going to get Randy Moss? But no, I think it's always. I mean, obviously it helps, right? If the quarterback's really has a relationship with a receiver that he throws with in the offseason or something like that, or he played with at college, and you just have it's just another part of our tool in the acquisition process. Oh, I think it'll affect it a little bit. As the free agencies, it's a solid group in free agency, but it's a rare year with running backs. I mean, it's in the draft. I can't remember this number of legit prospects at the running back position in the draft. And I usually don't talk about depth in the draft, but it's sticking out this year. It's rare. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. I apologize. I know you're not supposed to take running backs in the first round. I think Detroit and Atlanta would, those guys are doing pretty good. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I didn't hear the last part. Yeah, it's because of the talent at the position.
John, we're at the combine where we measure all these aspects of players.
Yes.
If you were to have a combine for scouts, what attributes would you be looking to measure to make a great scout?
Ooh, cool. Their relationships, their people skills, communication skills, ability to have relationships with, I would always hit the equipment guys when I went there to figure out what kind of person the guy is. We've really challenged the guys over the last 3 years about who is the person, who's the competitor. So and really focused on those grades, and then the talent kind of, that's kind of the easier thing to do, is to evaluate the talent level, but really, who is the person, and what are we going to get when, you're in tough times, right? Yeah. So I would say like the knowing different positions and all that, like that's big. Like Hutch does it for us. Steve Hutchinson does it on the offensive line. Just goes out and just does one position for us. But the rest of the scouts have to evaluate like every position. We don't just scout one position. So yeah, just like building relationships. I mean, the football knowledge stuff, it's got to be a given. We have a bunch of really cool young guys that are kicking butt right now. We like the interns that we've just hired full time, and it's just really cool to see their approach of like trying to reach out, trying to establish these relationships with guys, and they want to show you that, hey, I know this guy here and I know that guy there, and I'll talk to this person. I coach with that guy, and so it's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, they started this morning. We were going through all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's one-offs, right? So yeah, there's different phone calls, and I mean, you want to have all the information so you can make the best decision. And so like if we're talking about like last year the hip drop, right? So I would rely on John Lynch, who's a friend of mine, to hey, what's this going to look like? How are we going to officiate it? So there's one-offs like that, but the league does a really good job of presenting everything. Here's all the information. This is what's coming. So basically this morning they're kind of laying out the groundwork for what could be coming when we get to the owners meeting, and I mean that's right around the corner too. Just part of our evaluation process, like going back, our self-evaluation, just why are we missing, right? What's off right now? Like you're just constantly looking for your blind spots and trying to figure out how to compensate for them. Yeah.
How are you seeing that impact the way that you guys scouting, preparing for trades, especially since again it seems like it's changing by day.
Right. Yeah, we have to adapt. We have to keep like trying to understand who the person is, why are they jumping in the transfer portal? Sometimes it's a reflection on character. Sometimes it's just a reflection on depth at a school, at a position. I want to go play somewhere else. Sometimes, the guy that recruited him's left, is at a different school. So it's every individual. What is their particular situation, and to put that in the, evaluation computer and try to figure it all out. But the NIL stuff has helped, I think. I mean, I'm glad the guys are getting paid, and it's also a way for us to, evaluate how much they love the game, how they're going to handle themselves professionally. There's guys that, have, 2 and 3 cars right now. Guys making $6 million, and some guys making, 30,000, right? So it's another part of the information to put in the evaluation bucket for the draft, particularly. Do you see, sorry? Sometimes it depends on the person. How do they handle themselves off the field? Sorry, can you close? I can't hear you guys. Okay. Howie in particular, I think, does a really good job of that evaluation process of recognizing what the deficiencies are, right? So they wanted to fix their defense. They went out and hired Vic Fangio. He's a tell the truth guy. So he's always going to understand what needs to be fixed and work on it as quickly as he can.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.